Welcome to the Vault Excel. Thank you for joining me. This commentary is pertaining to testimony from the Adam Montgomery trial by Kayla Montgomery and by the defense who rested yesterday. The jury now has the case and they will decide the fate of Adam Montgomery and the murder of Harmony Montgomery. Something's been bothering me pertaining to this case, information pertaining to the death of the child. What day was she unalived? And the day that they went to the mother's home, the mother-in-law's home. So we have two different versions. And pardon me for saying that it was the 27th that it was Thanksgiving. I stand corrected. It was the 28th, as you see here, 28th November, Thanksgiving. So Wednesday was the 27th, Thursday was the 28th, Friday was the 29th. Look at those dates carefully and follow what I'm about to say in this commentary. When you go back in time 2 years ago, I listened to commentary from Mr. Enton on News Nation that there was a 13-day window of when they believed the child was unalived, okay? Went missing, so on and so forth. So it starts at November 27th or so, 28th to December 10th, somewhere in there, 28th to the 10th, whichever, because you don't really know. This is why I keep saying you have to have verification. So let's go to the cop that testified. He states during testimony that he pulled Adam Montgomery over 2 times. November 29th, which would be a Friday, there were 5 people in the car. Kayla, Adam, Tabitha Scott, and 2 small children, boy children. Harmony Montgomery was never mentioned. So where there's a problem is the obvious. 1, the child could not have gone missing on December 7th, per testimony from Kayla, if the cop pulled them over on the 29th, which is Friday after Thanksgiving, and the girl wasn't in the car. There's a written report. There is no girl child mentioned in the report. So she could not have been alive. Where would she have been? Number 1. Number 2, Kayla says the incident took place of the father unaliving her on the 7th in the car, but there's no way she could have been unalive on the 7th if she wasn't even seen November 29th in the car by the police. So then you fast forward over to December the 2nd. He's pulled over again, or there's a traffic accident, let's say. So traffic accident on the 29th, traffic accident on December 2nd, which is days later. No children are in the car on December 2nd. Just Kayla and Adam. Where were the children? She says either her mother had the children or Tabitha, which I find strange. You can't remember which one babysat your children. But you can remember other little details of the 7th with the Burger King, the parking lot, but you don't remember where you all were going after you left the parking lot eating the Burger King, and the child at this point is unalive. All that's strange. All that's strange. You can remember going to Burger King. You can remember this man unaliving the child on the way to Burger King. That morning at 7:09, he's hitting the child, beating up the child days before, busting her nose, so on and so forth. The defense telling us there's no blood in the car. But then there's people saying that the seat was taken out. So was blood on that seat that was taken out? Was it taken out, cut out, broke out? Don't know. Allegedly, the trunk was broke. See, too many versions, too many stories. You don't know what to believe. But the one thing I'm going to believe is that that cop went to an accident on November 29th, which was a Friday, 2019, and only 5 people were in the car. There was no Harmony Montgomery, number 1. So that means she could not have been at the mother's house when? November 29th. Because as I said, I made a mistake by saying Thanksgiving was the 27th. So Thanksgiving was the 28th. The defense says she went to the mother's house, sorry about that, on the 29th, the day after Thanksgiving. Well, that's the same day they had the traffic accident. So when did she go see her? The mother, morning, afternoon, what? And the mother claims, oh, she was there. I saw her. She had pigtails. She was quiet. But it still doesn't make any sense that you all are all together and living in a car. Where would the child have been for the cop not to see the child inside of the car? Stay woke now. All these people are together, homeless, living together, 3 kids. But when they have this traffic incident, the girl child's not there. She's not in the written report. Feel free to go verify it for yourself. Okay? 29th, no sign of the child in the car, but allegedly they go to the mother's house and the mother says she saw the child. You could not have seen the child, ma'am, on the 29th. If we're to believe this is the day that Kayla came to see you. I also find it strange she wouldn't have told her mother she was homeless and living in the car. No matter what day she went, 27th, 28th, 29th, it doesn't add up. Why not tell your mother you're homeless? Why is your aunt calling to say, hey, they're homeless, they're at my house, they can't stay here, blah, blah, blah. But then one point of the testimony by the defense yesterday says they couldn't stay with you because of the landlord or some business, but yet they end up staying with you 3 weeks, allegedly. Is that true too? See, you don't know what's the truth. You don't know how long they sat in the car homeless at that apartment complex belonging to Mr. Padero. He says they only stayed in his car 2 days. He wouldn't have let them store things in his car. So then you got to question that. 2 days in his car, they allegedly were in the parking lot 2 weeks in their car. But you only got evicted at the end of November. Stay woke. So make it make sense. How would you have been staying in the parking lot for 2 weeks in your car if you just got evicted near Thanksgiving? He's brought you food that same weekend, which would be this time frame here, 29th, 30th, 31st, or it goes into December 1st. It doesn't really add up. Because he said you only stayed in his car 2 days. And at this point, they don't have money. They never got their car repaired. So put it together now. How would they have been staying in the car 2 weeks? It would have to have been 2 weeks before their car broke down. Okay? But how would it be 2 weeks if you got evicted near November? Thanksgiving, excuse me. So if they got evicted near Thanksgiving, here we go. 27, 28, 29, somewhere in this time frame. Let's just go the whole week, 25th through the 30th. You couldn't have been in the parking lot for 2 weeks unless you got evicted the week of the 17th. Stay woke. Because Padero says he only lent you all the car for 2 days to stay inside. So if you were only in there this weekend, these few days here, in his car this weekend, then you weren't staying in that car after the weekend, and you didn't have your car to sleep in. So then you go backwards. How would you have been in it for 2 weeks if you got evicted the week of Thanksgiving? That doesn't make sense. The calendar is here. You're homeless this week of Thanksgiving. You stay in this man's car for only 2 days. Then you go to the aunt's house, and then your mother picks you up from the aunt's house. So that would be going into December. So then when you backtrack, at what point were they evicted to stay in the parking lot for 2 weeks? Somebody's lying. And I do not believe the story of the child being beat up at the clinic, outside of the clinic in the car, the Burger King business, the beating the child the morning of, all day being beat up, going into Burger King. So you're talking about the child being beat up at 2-something in the morning, all the way up until them going to the methadone clinic at 7-something, beating her up while driving, hitting. Not saying it's not possible, but it sounds far-fetched when you now verify the calendar itself. and the cop saying that girl wasn't in that car on that Friday the 29th. And this will be the day that she allegedly visited the mother, says the defense. So which is it? She went to the mother's house on Thanksgiving and Harmony was seen, but then by Friday she's unalived. But then where does December 7th come in? Stay woke. Mother sees her 28th at her house. Cop says he doesn't see her the 29th. Weekend, she's not seen in the car by Mr. Badero. So you have two people to put the child not in the car the week of Thanksgiving. 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th. Stay woke. Cop says on Friday, no child in the car at the accident, number one. Badero doesn't see the child in the car the 2 days he's taking them food. But yet, Kayla says the child was unalive December 7th. What is so special about this December 7th date? Because it doesn't make any sense to lie about the date. Make it make sense. Why is she saying the 7th? And when you go back in time in reports pertaining to the child, this is what is reported by News Nation. 13-day interval of the child missing. But when you go to the police report that we now have heard in court, he's got the child missing in action on the 29th. Put it together. So if you lie about December 7th for some weird reason, put up this cockamamie story about her being beat up, using the restroom all day at 2 a.m. up until morning 7 a.m., him hitting the child, beating the child up. Then you also said he was beating up the child days before. Why do we have two people now saying they didn't see the child the 29th, and Badero didn't see her that weekend either? So that means she wasn't alive. She wasn't unalive on the 7th. She was already dead on the 7th of December. So if you lie about that, who's to say she hasn't been deceased the whole week of November? How about she's already been unalive before they ever left that address where they stayed at the grandmother's house, evicted by the sheriff for non-payment of a mortgage? You don't know the truth. But you now have the dates right here and the testimony from the cop who went to the scene of an accident on the 29th of November, also December 2nd, with Mr. Montgomery and Kayla in the car at both times, but the child was not seen on the 29th, and she wasn't seen on December 2nd, so she could not have been unalive December 7th. Thank you for this viewing. Have a wonderful week. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $ Big Angie, 129 Cash App. Stickers and chats are always welcome during the live stream. This has just been a big lie. I do not know when she was unalive. I don't know the reason. I don't know who's all a witness, but she was miserably failed by the family, friends, associates, Department of Human Services of New Hampshire, Massachusetts, her own parents, both. You don't know what's the truth. And I do not believe that child even went to that mother's house on Thanksgiving or the day after or whichsoever, because now you see the discrepancies. And you have to remember one thing about this story. Everything's coming from Kayla and the mother. And she's already proven to lie and have lied to the grand jury. And I don't believe the cop lied. Thank you for joining me. You've been listening to The Vault XL.